Just a few hours ago, the Biden administration did something shocking that, quite frankly, almost no one expected in regards to the raid on President Trump's home. However, in order to explain it properly, let me back up for a moment and set the stage for you. Over the past 24 hours now, more and more details have come out regarding what exactly took place at Mar-a-Lago, as well as what actually led up to the FBI executing a search warrant. To start with, yesterday afternoon, President Trump revealed several new key details regarding the circumstances surrounding the raid on his home. Circumstances that, quite frankly, raise more questions than answers. That's because President Trump said that back in June, meaning about 2 months ago, the FBI actually went over to Mar-a-Lago. They inspected the area where the documents were being kept, and they suggested to President Trump's lawyers that they should install an extra padlock. Here's specifically what President Trump wrote on Truth Social, again, just yesterday afternoon. Quote, "In early June, the Department of Justice and the FBI asked my legal representatives to put an extra lock on the door leading to the place where the boxes were stored in Mar-a-Lago. We agreed. They were shown the secured area and the boxes themselves. Then, on Monday, without notification or warning, an army of agents broke into Mar-a-Lago, went to the same storage area, and ripped open the lock that they had asked to be installed." Now, if this all seems confusing to you, well, let me break it down in a simple timeline. In May of last year, the National Archives and Records Administration, otherwise known as NARA, they put out a statement saying that President Trump may have taken some items with him down to Florida that under the Presidential Records Act should have actually been turned over to the National Archives at the end of his administration. Now, for your reference, there is something I believe is worth highlighting here, which is that the Presidential Records Act of 1978 does in fact stipulate that a president, once his term in office is over, must transfer certain classified records over to the U.S. archivist, who is the head of the National Archives. However, few former presidents have actually done so in a short period of time, and none have ever been prosecuted as a result. Regardless, though, getting back to President Trump, what wound up happening is that the people from the National Archives, they had discussions with President Trump's representatives, they came to an agreement, and in mid-January of this year, 15 boxes of presidential records were transported from Mar-a-Lago over to the National Archives. Regarding this transfer, here was what David Ferrerio, who was the director of the National Archives at the time, here's what he wrote in a letter to the House Oversight Committee. Quote, "The National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, had ongoing communications with the representatives of former President Trump throughout 2021, which resulted in the transfer of 15 boxes to NARA in January of 2022. NARA requested that Trump representatives continue to search for any additional presidential records that have not been transferred to NARA, as required by the Presidential Records Act." And so based on that statement, you would assume that everything was fine and everything went smoothly. However, that wasn't the end of it. Because in February of this year, the National Archives requested that the Department of Justice launch an investigation into the way President Trump handled classified documents, which they wound up doing. On May 12th of 2022, on May 12th of this year, the FBI launched a grand jury investigation into whether or not President Trump mishandled White House records. And as a part of this investigation, FBI agents took a trip down to Mar-a-Lago, where they were shown the room where the remaining documents were being kept. And as President Trump mentioned in that earlier statement that we read, the FBI agents suggested to the lawyers who were there on site that they should add a padlock to the room in order to make it more secure, which President Trump's team agreed to, and a padlock was added. That was, of course, until Monday morning when FBI agents stormed into that room and destroyed the very padlock that they themselves suggested should be installed. Now, this ironic fact led Ms. Christina Bobb, who is President Trump's lawyer, and she was also there when the FBI suggested adding the padlock in the first place, to say this about the whole situation. Quote, "Nothing had been hidden and nothing had been kept secret from them, which makes this all the more ridiculous." Now, getting back to the question of why this raid actually took place at all, well, we have very little to go on, since the search warrant, as well as the affidavit that it was based on, have been sealed up by the court. Meaning that not only common plebes like you and me don't have access to it, but even President Trump's legal team is not allowed to know about what the probable cause was that instigated the actual search. However, it looks like that might be changing very soon. That's because after Judicial Watch filed a motion to unseal the documents behind the search warrant, the judge in the case issued an order requiring the Department of Justice to respond to it ASAP. Here's specifically what the judge wrote in his court order. Quote, "On or before 5 p.m. Eastern Time on August 15th of 2022, which is next Monday, the government shall file a response to the motion to unseal." But we actually did not have to wait that long, Because yesterday, in a move that was rather surprising to almost everyone who was watching this case, the Biden administration's Justice Department asked the federal court to go ahead and unseal the materials that were related to the search warrant. Specifically, during a speech that he gave in Washington, D.C. just yesterday, Mr. Merrick Garland, the current Attorney General, he asked the judge to unseal the warrant itself, some of the supporting materials that were used to apply for the warrant, as well as a receipt listing the items that were taken from Mar-a-Lago. Here's specifically what he said on this front. Quote, "The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter." And so, what this means is that within the next several days, we can expect to have in hand all of the related documents that pertain to the search. However, until then, the other point of interest is that during his speech, Merrick Garland disclosed the fact that he himself was the one who personally authorized the raid on President Trump's home. Quote, "I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. The department does not take such a decision lightly." However, after making these remarks, Merrick Garland refused to take any questions, and he said that the Department of Justice speaks only through their filings in court. He then walked away from the podium after speaking for only about 3 minutes. But shortly after he gave these remarks, someone from within his agency, meaning someone from within the Department of Justice, leaked to the Washington Post the quote-unquote real reason behind this raid. And according to them, it was because President Trump was holding on to classified documents related to nuclear weapons. The article, which you can see up on screen for yourself, cited only unnamed sources who are quote-unquote familiar with the investigation, and it said that, quote, "Classified documents relating to nuclear weapons were among the items FBI agents sought in a search of former President Donald Trump's Florida residence on Monday. Experts in classified information said the unusual search underscores deep concern among government officials about the types of information they thought could be located at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club and potentially in danger of falling into the wrong hands." However, as scary as those claims made by the unnamed sources sound, shortly after that article was published, President Trump came out and he responded by saying that it was all completely untrue. Here's specifically what he wrote on Truth Social. Quote, "Nuclear weapons issue is a hoax, just like Russia was a hoax, 2 impeachments were a hoax, the Mueller investigation was a hoax, and much more. Same sleazy people involved." Likewise, Ms. Christina Bobb, who is again President Trump's lawyer, she came out and said that, quote, "This is what the Democrats do. They don't have any good reason for doing what they did. Normally, they should come out with exactly what happened and why and explain themselves, and if it was a good reason, they would have solid ground. They are not on solid ground, so they had to come up with something that would potentially terrify the American public into freely giving up their constitutional freedoms." Now, thus far, the Department of Justice has not responded to any of our requests for comment regarding this whole issue of nuclear weapons, and so we wait, just like everyone else, for these documents to become unsealed, which, as I mentioned earlier, should be happening within the next few days. If you'd like to go through some of the research that we've compiled for today's episode, I'll throw all those links down into the description box below this video for you to check out. And all I ask in return is that if you haven't already, take a super quick moment to smash that like button so this video can be shared out to ever more people via the YouTube algorithm. And also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel as well, that we can get this type of honest news content delivered directly into your YouTube feed every time we publish it. And then lastly, over on epicTV, we just published an awesome special report called Behind the Trump Raid, wherein we detail the, you can call, secret strategy that's been playing itself out over the past 6 years now, and that culminated in this FBI raid on President Trump's home. Here's a trailer.
I think it's entirely unprecedented.
Totally unprecedented.
It's never happened before. We've never seen anything like this.
It's unprecedented.
Because it's never happened in American history, and it shouldn't have happened.
And this brings up a larger question because we're in a revolutionary cycle.
This is the modern day version of Watergate.
To me, it makes Watergate look rather small by comparison.
So the whole idea that Biden doesn't know anything is preposterous. It's just not true.
Their number one goal, and it has been this way since day one, is to stop Donald J. Trump from being president of the United States.
It's political showmanship. I'm not worried about any of it. Donald Trump didn't commit a crime.
This is a corrupt politicization of law enforcement in our country.
The greatest threat to the United States of America is denial.
This is the defining moment of the entire Biden presidency.
They know it. They're definitely targeting President Trump because they don't want him to run for president again. It's that simple.
How we act right now will be discussed for generations to come.
We cannot deny what is happening to our justice system.
If you'd like to check out that awesome special report, the link will be right there at the very top of the description box. I hope you click on it, and I hope that you check it out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.